This week's edition of From the House of the Holy is brought to you by one of Stirling Football Club's major sponsors, the Odin Tavern, welcoming you with good old-fashioned service and a warm and friendly country-style atmosphere. And the combined Ladies' Day /100 Club social event, held at the Stirling Football Club's Richard Guelphy Reserve Club on Saturday, the 4th of August. It promises to be the social highlight on this year's calendar. Enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Stirling Saints Football Club podcast from the House of the Holy. It's your insider look into the players and people who make our humble sporting club. I'm your host Damon Eaton, and with me is my reliable co-host. As a younger man, he was often mistaken for one Rafael Nadal, but on the tennis court. It's good evening to Mr. Daniel Tilby.
G'day Damon, and g'day to our listener.
Yeah.
That is true actually, mate. I did get, I've had a look-alike of Rafa.
Well, it's only been you that's told me that you have once upon a time looked at Rafael Nadal, and I'll take your word for it, mate. So.
Yeah, I think it was Beck Pass.
Oh, okay. So it's a fairly recent look-alike. You'll have to get the baggy loose pants on and the old bandana on, mate.
The bandana.
And put a racking handle. Probably be a lot clearer.
I don't think I'll pull it off there. I've got no hair, don't I?
The bandana, Tills. Bandana.
That's it.
All right, we'll get straight into it. Let's introduce our special guest tonight, Tills. Good one. Look, we went back to a veteran player in Fragger's last round. We returned to another past player. I guess it's in an echo from the past Players' Day we just had this last Saturday. I'll run you through. Look at this. I actually did the research. I actually contacted the encyclopedia of everything football of our club, one Paul Giamoff. Here we go. This guy, he played 57 games for the Stirling Saints between 2001 and 2003, and also in 2010-2014. Included 38 league games, 18 reserve and 1/3. In his illustrious playing career, he's also played for Thornley. He played for Boyart Brook from 97 to 2000 and Coolbinia West Perth from 2006 and 2007. He is also, as far as Saints, he was a runner-up fairest and best for league in 2001, and he was the third fairest and best in the following year, 2002. Hasn't stopped there, Tills. He coached reserves in 2010. He was an assistant lead coach 2015. During that time, he also served on the committee. And also, he won the LSWFL Association Fairest and Best while playing for Boyart Brook in 1999. And he was also a member of the Thornley Premiership team of 93. Can you believe that, Tills? That's pretty Sunday Football League. That's comprehensive coverage, isn't it?
I can believe that, mate. And I would not doubt Punder's stats, and our guest it doesn't surprise me that he's achieved so much.
Michael Evans, Evo, welcome on the line, mate. How you going?
How are we, boys? Great to see you here. Always only the old Nadal. I love that one.
That got me. I do. Oh, shit.
You must call me Mark Philippoussis. I used to get that I looked a bit like him, don't I?
The poo,
actually.
Oh, yeah, I reckon you got more refined eyebrows. He was like, had the angry caterpillar monobrow, I think so.
Yeah, good comeback. Thanks, Damo.
Much more refined eyebrow.
Good to have you, Mick.
Well, Evo, it's great to have you on, mate. I noticed in that rundown also with Paulie Gmoff, look, Tills, you said that we would never doubt Paulie G's statistics, but I did notice one thing that was missing from the rundown I just gave you, Evo. Can you pick it out?
Geez, one thing that was missing.
Yeah.
I noticed a few things that were missing, mate, but I don't want to just jump in.
I'll give you a clue. I'll give you some direction. 2004.
Okay.
There's one part in 2004, but I mean, it's It was a club that you played for in 2004, but it wasn't listed.
Yeah, okay, well, that's Beachborough, so yes. Is that correct?
Was it Beachborough? I was thinking Dalwallini, my friend.
I've got them at 207, Damo.
Oh, have you?
After
okay.
Coolvinia, I went down to Delhi. It might have been 204. Mate, my memory's shot as far as there was too many clubs. I don't know what it was. Yes, I did go to Delhi, and I do remember you being down there, I believe, teaching.
That's right, yeah, it was good playing under your brother Shane. It was awesome. It was actually really, really good times. Look, I had a great time playing at Delhi, playing there. And as you know, and we've obviously with our guests, we've talked about those who've done country stints. I'm amazed to see, well, not really that amazed, but it's just really good to hear how country footy, it's the social hub. Every town member turns up to watch the game. It's just such a great vibe when it's Saturday rolls around or Sunday in the Mortlock League, and it's every man and his dog is watching the game. It really creates a great atmosphere.
Yeah, you're right, mate. And then especially Delhi, they had the netball, and the netballers would come over, and obviously they'd do their awards. It was a real country atmosphere, and I think it's lost a little bit in the city. Not to say that there isn't some great clubs out there, but just that camaraderie that's built around those country leagues and competition. I mean, that competition alone was nothing to be sneezed at. So I was thinking it was going to be a little bit easier than what it was, to be honest, Damo.
Well, your inclusion was certainly a boon for the Bulldogs in that season, mate. I know it was great. I mean, I know you played mostly. I think you played in the forward line, and that forward line was already very much stacked. We had, I think, it was a 2-time league for leading goal kicker in Phil Brooks, if you remember him, playing full forward, and just slotted in nicely in the forward pocket forward. Played on the ball a few times as well. I remember you playing very strong, very, very strong mark, very hard to outmark, and it just one of those things, a great target inside the 50. Yeah, well, I'm good friends with them still, mate. So I saw Phil came down 2 weeks ago to Stirling with us to watch one of our other mates that played in that side, Mark Grogan, who was coaching Carlisle against the Stirling boys. So still good friends. And then Lloyd Haskett, who was there as well. Oh, wow.
So still good friends with all those guys. And they came down, to watch Stirling take on Carlisle 2 weeks ago. Oh. And, you're right. It was a good bunch of blokes. And as I said, we all still get together and talk about how bad or good we were, depending on the
day. Yeah. Well, I do remember we went up to the semis on that season. I think when you were playing too, we think were taken out by, was it Darren? I think it might have been, or Kalingari. Kalingari, I think, took us out.
Yes, correct, mate. Yeah, they were a pretty good side too.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Well, let's talk about the Past Players Day. Let's get straight into talking about Past Players Day, Mick. Last Saturday. How'd you find it?
Yeah, look, obviously the weather didn't do us too many favours, but the numbers were fantastic. I mean, I was actually blown away. And first, before I get into it, I must say, the work yourself, Damo, Wade Sassif, and obviously Tilly does in and around the club, and obviously the old boys, I hear, are still doing the dinners.
Yep.
The mafia, which we used to call them. I mean, hats off to you guys. It's a thankless job, and to what you pulled off on the weekend was a credit to all of you. So many smiling faces, and we were still playing pool there at about 10 o'clock at night. And when I left, there was still probably 40 or 50 still telling war stories and talking themselves up. So, mate, it was a credit to all of you. It was a really good day. Obviously, it would have been better if the score reflected a little bit closer margin, but it is what it is, and I think the boys tried their hardest. But, mate, to see some of the guys, the Trevor Green brothers, Joel Edwards, Wayne Bonjour, Marshy, Braggers, Jonesy, the Lidlow brothers, haven't seen for over 10 years, Justin Woods, Ripper, Charlie B, Joey Commandy,
bloody hell,
King Aki, Johnny I. Mate, there was guys I haven't seen for over 15, 16 years, so look, to see those guys and just see them all together back at a club that they really enjoyed and loved, mate, it was pretty special, to be honest.
Yeah, well, look, I couldn't stay there for as long as you said. At 10 o'clock, I wasn't surprised that it kicked on to that long and beyond. Tills, you were probably there for the closing again, were you? Was that pass on
Yeah.
Oh, Tills, yeah.
Probably, what do we call it?
Finish up, Tills.
About 2?
Bloody hell.
Actually, still probably, probably a good 10 blokes or so sitting around at 2:15 still. So,
geez, those footy stories must have been fantastic, man.
Oh, mate, we ran out of piss. I think that's the only reason why they got to move on.
It was a really good day, and I think everyone really enjoyed themselves. So I only saw people with smiles on their faces, which was a good thing.
And
it was really good.
I remember when we spoke earlier today, Evo, we talked about it's probably a sign of how good it is. The turnout is when you don't have enough time to speak to everyone there. You're so engaged in talking to someone. You see someone else off in the distance. Oh, I've got to remember to catch up with him and have a word with him, say good day to him. But before too long, when you have to go, you sort of walk out and you think, oh, geez, I didn't even chat to such and such, or I know I gave a quick nod from a distance to that bloke over there. That's probably a good indication of that it is a good night.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, I had a few of those. Johnny Ivelich, I wanted to go up and say hello, and couldn't even get around there. So a bit lazy on my behalf, to be honest. But I think it was because there was that many people there, and I was a little bit excited myself to see so many faces I hadn't caught up with. So yeah, no, it is tough.
Yeah, and cheers very much for the credit, by the way, you paid towards us for organising it. It's half the reason why we put the podcast together, Evo, so everyone can just, pump the air in our tyres for us, mate. It's for completely selfish reasons.
No, I love the podcast, mate. I'm a big fan, and I've seen the lights, and at the moment, Corpheus is winning with 21, so we've got to really pump this up, because I don't want to lose to Corpheus, and Damo Lloyd's in second on 13 likes, so he's another one I don't want to lose to. So I need you boys to be really on your game tonight.
It's a big ask, Evo.
Wow.
Bloody hell. I haven't even had a beer tonight, mate. Bloody hell.
We'll get one out of the fridge and shoot one, Phil. So
I'll have a shotgun.
Well, you think this is our 13th podcast, you think we'd be battle-hardened by now, Evo, so we should be getting the very best of us.
We're going well, boys. We're going well. Keep it dry.
Well, let's quickly talk about the game, Evo. We'll talk quickly about the Quinns Districts game that just happened on obviously on the Saturday. As you mentioned, extremely wet conditions, exceptionally torrential rain that happened, especially during the reserves match. The reserves went down, lost by 75. They kicked, by 75. Kicked 1 goal for. And of course the league match, which was also the banner game for one Mark Kelly, even though his 200 game was the weekend before. Quinns league went down by 102. We did kick 6 goals 6. So look, as a guy who's coached, assistant coached the league side and done that, you've probably seen a more coached during the time, more successful times. What would you suggest might be the way to go for the start of a new season, or what do you think could be gotten out of the end of this season with the last 3 games?
Yeah, look, Damo, I mean, they're all good questions. I suppose let's start with the guys that were out there on the weekend. I probably couldn't be, I heard stories of guys, 6 or 8 guys playing 2 games. I mean, I think they played Rezzies and then fronted up to play league, and it almost brings a tear to your eye that guys are actually doing that for their club. So, first and foremost, anyone that put the Guernsey on the weekend has to be sort of, praised, if anything, that they've gone out and stayed strong to their club and committed to the job at task. I mean, it can't be easy, and exactly what you've said, that those guys just running up week in, week out at hidings on the cards, I couldn't imagine it, to be honest. It must be, really upsetting for those guys. So first and foremost, I take my hat off to those guys that are still out there. I know most of them, and I'm really feeling for them. And talking to guys on the weekend, the hardest thing is you can't just go put a jumper on and say, boys, come on, here I am, I'm going to play with you. And I suppose you'd love to, but, at 46, your time's done. So that's the hardest thing. Moving forward, look, I felt for Kinga, and I'll be honest, there's a couple of times I turned up to training on Thursday and just sat in the outer in my car and watched the boys train. And when you've got 16 to 18 to 20 at training, there's not much you can really do either from a training perspective. So that's out the window as well. So it it really comes down to where's the club at and what does the club want to do. Now, going on the Saturday and everyone that turned up to the past players, there's obviously great support for the club, so we're not lacking the support. I think it's just more around people committing more time and you know, King is the man next year is give him all our support and try and get more people around the club. So it's not easy, and there's no sort of magical wand that's going to fix it. It's probably been heading down this path for a few years, e.g. with the Colts, and then it just slowly manifests its way into the reserves, and then before you know it, your numbers are thin. So, look, as I said, I am a fan of the podcast. I did hear your chat with Tony T, and I couldn't agree more with, you know, if there was a merger club, e.g. the Aussie districts or whatever it might be, and there's an option there with the strength of our under-17 Colts and the strength of numbers, then it's really something you've got to have a look at. And at the moment, I'm the president of the Perth Cricket Association, so, you know, we're in merger talks with the Hills Comp to make our numbers stronger and to take us back up to a 32-club competition with 120-odd sides. And,
wow,
you know, it's no one's fault. It's the way sport is. There's no young kids sort of coming through cricket, and the ones that are the really good ones that move to the, if you like, the waffle clubs or the whacker clubs, whether depending on it's footy or cricket.
Yeah.
And, you know, the numbers are thin. So, look, I think the only way out is more commitment from a mass, and obviously if there isn't a club around the area, e.g. a Kareen or an Aussie districts that are in the same boat, then take your egos aside and take the club hats off, boys, and we need to start talking about, you know, getting a stronger club.
Well put, Evo. Exceptionally well put. I will say that there's a couple of other things that have arisen over I think I missed the last committee meeting, Tills, but the committee meeting before that, I know we've extended an invitation to a representative from the West Australian Amateur Football League, a representative to come sit in our next committee meeting to sit and actually see firsthand the situation that our club's facing and to lay on the table, look, this is where we are, these are the options we've got, we understand at this point of time, and get you know, people from that administrative umbrella, you know, looking at the administration from the whole competition to say and ask them, I want you to think about it and then come back to us and give us some suggestions of what we can do better. I know one thing that we were going to inquire was, obviously we find that there's a big gap between the juniors to the Colts. We lose a massive amount of players in that sort of little age bracket between, you know, 15 to 17 to 18 when they play the under 17s or under 18s, I think it is. And then there's like that 1 or 2 year lull. Of course, they have their driver's license, they're legally able to drink, and so there's a lot of players that lose interest there. I know one of the things we had considered, or wondering if it was going to be an option, is can we lessen that Colts entrance age, you know, lessen it so we can get those guys that are still keen on playing, they're still, you know, consistently playing from their high school years, going straight into Colts. I mean, what are your thoughts on that idea? Do you think that's a possible solution, perhaps?
Well, I think watch your space the next year or two. There are moves about to actually, because the league does understand that there is this massive dropout from the 15s, 16s, you know, getting up to the Colts age. So they're putting into play some ideas as to a bit of a rejig, where I think the 17s will actually become the Colts qualifying age.
Right.
So it won't actually be a Year 12s competition. And I think the waffle, I think you'll see some changes in there where their reserves will probably drop away from being the stage on the stage of the weekend. So I think it'll be a Colts women's league. And going back to your point as well with the request for a representative from the amateurs to come down to the committee meeting, yeah, that's something that we're definitely pursuing. It's more about, you know, getting educated. We don't know all the answers, and any input and any access to a different knowledge base is, we'll definitely jump on board for that for sure.
And as I said, at the end of the day, the league needs to take a bit of responsibility too. Obviously, you've forfeited twice in Resies, and the Colts obviously isn't around any longer. So, blind Freddie can see that the club needs a bit of hand. So I hope they're doing something, and I hope they are proactive in coming down and taking you on in that meeting, because, the last thing they would like to see is a club just go under. And I mean, they can't afford either for clubs around the local areas just to drop off. So I know, as president of a cricket club, if we've got a club in trouble, the first point of call is to give that club a call and say, hey, look, can we catch up? How are you travelling? What are you thinking for next year? And really try and nut it out with them. So, I'd be disappointed if the amateur league wasn't doing something around the same to support the Stirling Footy Club.
Yeah, I think we'll get some assistance from them. Jez has got a good contact in there, and I think that's going to be handy. So there are a couple of points that you've mentioned just before, Evo, that we'll be looking at going down that avenue. And, and that sort of assistance be greatly appreciated, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's these are all options that I mean, as dire as our situation as a club is and so forth, I mean, there's always it's when you're looking for avenues of ways of working around it, when situations like this evolve, and certainly the competition has evolved a lot from the last 10 years, from the last times you were playing Evo. So that's the way, is you've got to, as a club, evolve with it, and your fortunes will always swing and come around as well. And at this stage, we're going through a pretty hard trot. You can't stop looking and can't stop considering options, and certainly can't stop listening to other people from other clubs or other associations, or indeed, as you mentioned, from other sports and how they've dealt with the situation, and consider whether they're options themselves. I know one other thing that was sort of mentioned as well is, and I know you touched upon it too, Evo, when we talked about the country leagues, is that they have, on their presentation nights in their clubs, they have a female sporting team that actually is in presentations. I mean, obviously with Dalwallon, that it was the netball, hockey, and the women's teams there, and on the same day playing was obviously the men playing the footy, and at the end of the day we'd all get together in the club room and they had presentations and so forth. I mean, I know the women's league is pretty much promised to the Waffle, but do you think that might be an option of maybe chasing up a local women's team that's not soccer? Obviously it's going to be eaten up by the other men's teams, but looking at netball or anything like that and offering to them, hey, look, you play on Saturdays, you want a venue, why not come down to our club and we'll allow you to do the presentation same night as us? Do you think that might be an option?
Yeah, Damo, and you bring up really good points. I mean, I know Kingsway does it, and people are attracted to good facilities, and I know they've got good facilities up there, and so do we at Stirling. I mean, speaking of Wade on the weekend, the one thing that we do have is a sensational bar. The new toilets look amazing, and we've got a great hall for presentations and socialising. So at the end of the day, I think it's about just getting on the horse, having a look at groups around, and, as you said, trying to amalgamate it into a sporting club rather than just thinking sometimes football and being one-eyed focused on football. So, I think we have to, in all sorts of business, you have to diversify, and I think you've all brought up really good points.
Awesome. Okay. Well, everyone, look, we sort of summarise, we pull apart the prospects of our club and so forth. I mean, we can move on to next round. I mean, we've got we're up against Bassendean in our third last round. It's Jubilee Oval away from there, and this is when round 7 when we last faced them at home, we lost by 84 with 6 goals 10. Reserves lost by 2. We kicked 3 goals 1. Look, there's obviously things we can obviously look to improve there, and that's, I mean, it seems to me that league we seem to be kicking 6 goals. Try to aim for 7 or 8 and sort of bridge the gap a bit more, get some forward momentum. It might be a good thing. Just having a good showing in an away game, and then hopefully we can G ourselves up for the last home game and get a good showing out there, because I think entertaining football is what we're all looking for right now and getting some sort of positive out of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And once again, another good mate of mine coaches Bassendean in Stephen Young and the Youngie brothers. So my bragging rights this year have gone right out the window, and I'm getting left, right and centre. So, if the boys have got nothing else to play for, can they please play for my dignity? And look, as I said, when Damien Lloyd doesn't play, I watched him when they played Carlisle away, and I think he kicked 6 that day and really had a day out. Obviously, Adam Edwards is cruising the Monaco with his Ferrari and hanging around with, celebrities. So I'm not sure where he's gone, but I know he's gone again. So look, once again, it doesn't help these blokes when they lose their senior players that aren't out there as well. So look, as I said at the start, I'm just really feeling for the nucleus of guys, especially Kinger, who's trying to mould this all together. So look, they've got to hang tough and play for each other and just show the grit they did on the weekend, and the scores are relevant, really. Yeah. It's just more about determination and doing your best.
Yeah, you're right. It has been a bit of a sharp homecoming for Kinger this season, but look, a lot of things to play for in this round. Let's move on, mate. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about your history with the club. Let's talk about your history as a player. Give us a rundown. I was wondering
where you're going to get on to my favourite subject.
Well, we got here eventually, mate. We've come around full swing. Have you always been a winter sports, only been footy for your whole life? Did you come through the the Auskick ranks? Was Auskick around when you were a young mate?
No Auskick, Damo. I was in Sydney actually, so my dad took us to Sydney with his work. So my brother was listed in the local C4 team, under 11s.
All right.
That's when they started back then, under 11s. So I was 6 years old, and I said, Mum, I want to play. I've got to play with my brother.
Yeah.
And they said they were short, so I had no footy boots. I played in my school shoes, so you can imagine how good I went. But mate, similar to the boys this weekend, I went out there and I had a crack, but I was only 6 and my brother was 10 at the time, and we were playing under 11s at C4. So that's when it commenced, Damo.
Unreal.
Have you tried? We've listed the amount of clubs you played at. Thornley during the Sunday Footy League. You won the premiership back then. What are your memories? Can you recall what that was like playing in that season back then?
Well, mate, it's very entwined, and it's funny how life works itself out. So a lot of the Aussie Park boys came to that Sunday League Thornley. I knew them through East Perth. So that was JR, Ray Ewing, Flapper, Glenn Dinning, and there was a couple of other boys that JR bought, but they were the two. So there wasn't always a Stirling Aussie Park connection. Yeah. And we all decided to go to Thornley through JR with my brother and a few other mates that were at East Perth, Michael Chalmers and guys that we sort of grew up with. There was Anthony McAleer and Jamie Ninyette and some really good footy players from the local area. Just went to Thornley. I don't think any of us ever been to Thornley, to be honest with you. But we went and played at Thornley because JR told us to be honest. And, mate, the first game of the year we lost. We lost to Kenwick, and the umpire gave a wrong decision, so I had the footy and I threw it back at the umpire instead of the player, and he sent me off. So that was my first walking into send-off, just for throwing a ball back to the ump.
In your first game?
I missed that day, sitting with my granddad, watching them, and we lost against Kenwick, and then we didn't lose another game all year, and we were lucky enough to win the grand final.
Yeah, what
Beauty,
fair
mate.
Old team there, Evo.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of big names there.
Fair old team there, bloody hell.
Oh, there was even more, mate. There was Arthur Mascos, South Fremantle. We had some really good other Thornley players that hung around there for long periods of time. Yep. In Mark Scott and Daryl Holmes. It was a pretty good side. And Timmy Miasovic, who was a Thornley ruckman, he was a great ruckman, and we had some pretty good names, and it was a pretty good side. So we had a lot of fun actually. It was thanks to JR. I saw him at our reunion about a month ago, and he hasn't changed.
No.
Yeah, thanked him for getting us all there, and mate, ended up being the only grand final I won. So thank God we ended up going down there.
Yeah, look at me.
Is JR still doing the old popping the bottle cap trick? One thing I remembered about him, apart from his voice and being a decent footballer, is He had that party trick where he could actually ping anyone across the room and scone you like, on their head with just, his Mac 10 bottle caps. He just absolutely had, playing marbles as a kid, he said he used to just develop that skill. He just could smash anyone with a bottle cap. Was he demonstrating that on the weekend at that time?
No, mate, I think he put that trick away. We're all sick of it, but I know the trick you mean, and he was very good at it. It was like finding a little gun, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. He was pretty confident in himself, Evo.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, JR, geez. When they were, he fell in love with himself at an early age, mate. He was a good player and he was hard at it, and, I've seen him kick some great goals. So, bloody hell. For an old boy.
Shit, yeah.
Was he East Freo when he played Waffle? Where did he play?
East Perth.
East Perth, sorry. Yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah, and he took the mark of the year in the Waffle, mate, and he'll never let you forget it. And if you want a copy of it, he's still got a few. So,
that's right. I do remember, Tills, you probably might remember this, when he came and coached us, obviously, in Osmond Park, mid 96, I think, 97. I do remember
96, 97, yeah.
He invited us around, the boys around to his place to have a barbecue and a few drinks around, I think, one weekend after the presentations and that, or whatever it was. And I do remember he has a framed photo. He had a photo. He's probably still, no doubt he's still got it. But, and he has a picture of him taking that scream that you described, one of the marks of the year. It has there, but it's also set with a few other action shots of him, and has his inset.
I know the house you're talking about too, there, mate.
Yeah. There's a little plaque of his.
Good times there. That's right.
And how's Flapper going? How was Flapper? What was he like? He was pretty good. Same sort of, I don't know. I remember him having a certain face. He's, would say, so it's sort of crossed between, you remember that show Some Mothers Do Have 'Em?
Yeah, Frank Spencer. And
for some reason, he just kept reminding me of him.
Was that Flapper? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, he just kept reminding me of him.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right too, mate. He had women's hips, but he could run. He was a great little wingman, and he had skills, unbelievable skills, mate.
Yeah. I remember he had a girlfriend at that time, and he used to call her the Trout.
I heard he used to wear her pants. They could swap jeans. That's
good, actually.
He had the smallest legs and calves I've ever had. But, mate, when it comes to running, you just handballing the ball and watching go.
Absolutely. Yeah, shit, yeah.
Hey guys, we're just going to take a break from this week's episode of From the House of the Holy to talk to you about our major sponsor for this week, the Odin Tavern. How long has it been since you've been down at the Odin Tavern for a dinner? We all know that it's got the greatest sports bar, it's got an excellent beer garden, and it's well renowned and actually recognised award-winning TAB. But when's the last time you went down and had a meal in the dining area? You should check this out. Kids eat free Mondays and Tuesday nights at the Odin Tavern. Every midday from Monday to Friday and workday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m, there's a tradie ladies' day. $16 for either your choice of steak or fish with chips and salad for $16. What about Sunday roasts? The old Australian tradition of Sunday roasts, $18. $18 for a Sunday roast. And you get an offering of 2 different courses. So you can either have soup as an entree before you tuck into the roast. Or if you don't feel like an entree, you can swap that entree for a dessert. Roast followed by one of the delicious desserts. Imagine that, a vanilla custard profiterole serving at the end there. That's my personal favourite. Thursday nights, nothing like a good old Parmigiana. $18 Parmigiana. And the best way I would describe the Parmigianas over at the Odin Tavern is that the girth of their servings can only be described as hefty. Hefty. There's specials for seniors. There's so many other things. The menu is extensive. They're great atmosphere. Fantastic service. Check out their website for bookings. The Odin Tavern, corner of Erindale Road and Delaunay Street. The Odin Tavern, welcoming you with good old-fashioned service and a warm and friendly country-style atmosphere. Hey guys, if you thought that the Past Players Day was an event that was not to be missed, you need to check out this next social event that's coming up on our next home game. That's on August the 4th. August the 4th, it's our last home game, second last round of the season. It's a combined day, social day, ladies' day, followed by the 100 Club draw. The ladies' day is from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m, and the 100 Club draw continues in the clubhouse. Draw begins at 5 p.m. and then finishes at 8 o'clock. Let's talk about the ladies' day. Wendy Corfius is the lady for you to call up.
0418 755 684, or Di is another person you can contact if you're interested, 0417 909 861. So what is happening in the Ladies' Day? Well, it's going to be all sorts of fun and games, free drinks and bubbles and wine and great food, great prizes as well. First 30 ticket buyers get a gift bag, and this gift bag is just loaded full of all these good stuff from local businesses for you ladies out there. Games such as Pin the Tail on the Donkey or some derivative of it, other things such as raffles and so forth about the games, points and so on. There's even a pinata, absolutely. But what's really impressive about it is that you've got staff that's going to be waiting on you hand and foot, from food, for drinks. You don't have to go do it yourself. They will get it for you. As far as the sponsors, local businesses have helped us out here. Check this out. We've got everything from Adore Beauty, Barley Body, Bras and Things, Butter London, doTERRA, Dusk. It goes on. EcoTan. We've got a whole heap of spas, vouchers, $100 vouchers from Exhale Skin Body Spa, Lanolips, L'Oreal, Lorna Jane, Lush, Madame Flavour, Modern Co, Moxie, My Beauty Spot, OPI, Prima Fitness, Scarborough Yoga, Sephora, Serenity. I don't know half of these things what they'd actually do, but apparently they're quite good. My wife assures me. T2, I know that's for tea, and also Whistler's Chocolate Company. So tickets are $30. RSVP Wendy or Di, 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. And then afterwards you can make your way to the clubhouse and be part of the 100 Club festivities. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, we've got about 12 left. $100 to buy a number between 1 and 100, only 12 left, and you could be in the running on an elimination style draw to win possibly $2,000 for first prize, $1,000 for second prize, $500 for third prize, and if you're the unfortunate soul to be the first eliminated, you get your money back. Imagine that. You can't lose. $100 you paid for the ticket, you're the first one eliminated, you get your money back, and you have 3 hours of free drinks at the bar, and free food, and great company, and excellent football. What more could you want? So, Ladies' Day and the 100 Club, August the 4th, Saturday. That's about a week and a half away, from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. Make sure you're there.
Well, let's get back to talk about shenanigans and so forth. Evo, I'm going to ask you a question from another one of our regular listeners who wishes to remain anonymous, but he's asked us to relay a question about you. We talk about after game shenanigans and bonding with blokes after games and going to mates' places and so forth. And wind-ups is always something to look forward to at the end of a season. And this actual question comes from a particular wind-up. And the question comes from Mr. Incognito is, have you kept all the jocks that you ripped off the boys on the wake at Aussie's house that time?
Have I kept all the jocks? No, definitely don't keep jocks, mate, so let's cut that rumour straight out. I know where this is going. I don't want to mention this. Do you have female viewers out there?
It's
many.
No, well, I don't know, mate. It's hard to say. It's only when I bump into blokes I say, hey, I've been listening to the podcast. I don't, the likes aren't associated.
There was one of our boys didn't really appreciate a golden shower when we got a bit messy there for a while. So one of the young kids probably I went a little bit too far. So I apologise if he's out there listening. And I owe a few boys a couple of pairs of jocks as well. So I'm happy to sort that out.
There was I think that was one of the things of the early on in the millennium. It wasn't just. I don't think it was just localised to you, Evo. I do remember. Oh gosh, when I was up in Derby, when we used to do the drives from Derby to Fitzroy, a 3-hour bus drive to play the away game, and it would take 7 hours to drive back. And not a single bloke would be wearing a pair of jocks underneath their shorts. They'd always end up somewhere hanging out in a tenner outside a window. So you'd make sure you wouldn't wear your best jocks because you have to wear ones that were virtually disintegrating, so made for an easy rip because you wouldn't knacker yourself when someone else decides to get you on a new pair.
Well, mate, I think you summed it up. It was a 7-hour trip back. There was alcohol, probably no women, in a bus with blokes. I mean, what else can you get up to?
Exactly.
We've only got a small imagination, and it obviously comes down to ripping off guys' jocks or sitting there and talking to them. So I know which one I'd rather do.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, let's talk about look, as much of a journeyed player as you are, Evo. I mean, there are a lot of players when we ask on our podcast about certain questions. We ask the 3 questions at the end of the podcast, as we will for you. We'll eventually get to that. But look, when it comes to being like strong players, hard players that are nutty, I mean, your name always is in consideration, if not taking the title. Is that how you would best like to see yourself as a player, like a guy who was hard or just played with passion, or would you rather see yourself as a guy who had finesse, skills? How would you see yourself as a player?
Oh, look, mate, I've asked myself that question a few times, to be honest, and I think you sort of lean towards what your strengths were. I mean, finesse probably doesn't go too well with me, and look, I at the start, all I wanted to do was play footy, chase a ball around, get as many kicks as possible, enjoy my time with my mates, protect each other. We played a really solid standard of football, and you had to sort of work as a team if you wanted to beat some of the teams we played against. So what would I be like remembered as a player? Look, as I've always sort of said, I was hard at the footy, but the footy came first. And I suppose there is incidents surrounding my career where you could challenge that.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'll always go back to, there was things leading up that engaged that challenge. So I never went out in the game and wanted to hurt anyone. I never went out in the game and wanted to knock anyone out. The only thing I ever had in my mind was get the football, win the game, and celebrate with the boys afterwards. They were my 3 objectives.
Yeah.
Along the journey, there was obviously hiccups that some I'm not proud of, to be honest. But look, when you play a game, you got a guy that scrags you for a half, ripping your jumper, calling your names, elbowing you, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It comes a time when you probably go, mate, you're sort of starting to annoy me, to be honest. So, and there was a couple of times when I probably took action where I probably in hindsight wouldn't have. So, you can work that out for yourself. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed playing with the guys I played against. Stirling was one of the top teams that I ever played in, and I had a real passion for that club, and I had a passion for the guys that were representing the club at that particular time. So just as when I watched the guys on Saturday that came back from the 98 GF, I think it was, they won. I mean, my envy goes straight out to half of my team that was there on that Saturday, that we can't celebrate the way that those guys can, because, we came so close, and it was in the A grade, and Stirling was never meant to be in the A grade in my view at that time.
Yeah.
The A grade was for the universities, the Scarboroughs, the TAs, the North Beach, the North Frios, the West Coast, the Wembleys, the Collegians. It was like, who's this Stirling?
Yeah.
So, I won't say there was anything untoward against Stirling, but I feel we were always the poor cousins, and I think got treated sometimes as such. But in saying that, we definitely had the team to win. There was no side that we didn't beat. North Beach, I think one year we beat them twice and went on to win it. So we knew on our day we were the best side. It's just, look, in hindsight, we just couldn't put it all together at the finals time. And I suppose I challenge and live with that we probably won't get to celebrate it like those other boys, because I agree. They went all the way and won a grand final, and I don't care what grade you're playing or whether it's darts or marbles or whatever.
Yeah.
If you win a grand final with a bunch of blokes, then you have the right to celebrate that until your last breath on the planet. So I couldn't have been happier, and I just saw the way those boys really gelled, and they've got a bond for life, which I had at Thornley when I went there a month ago. The only thing is I'm envious. I wanted that with the guys I played at Stirling. So there is a bit of a sad pill to swallow there. And but at the end of the day, I've got a lot of good friendships out of it. So I pay homage to that.
Yeah.
Well, very well spoken, Evo. I think it's testament to you too, mate, where you talk about the idea of lifelong bonds and winning flags and so forth. But we've got a generation of players now, I guess, at our club right now who will probably never know and I hope this changes, and I really do hope that I'm completely wrong here, who may never, ever understand what it is to play or to win a flag, or win a premiership. So hopefully that'll change. But yeah, I think
David, and I think you're right. If I can just cut there,
go for it.
I mean, I think you also remember this club had people, and I mean, Tills, you could name some of those. We spoke about JR, but I mean, I heard you with Wade Tassett and Tony T. Some of the footy players that have walked in the doors of this club, whether it be a Belcatta, an Aussie Park to a Stirling. I mean, there's some of the strongest footy players that were going around WA to some degree at the time. I mean, we had some great, solid young footy players that have walked in. Even when I was coaching with Joel, to have Damien Lloyd, Adam Edwards, Aaron Sweet popped his head through, Maldivas, Grover, Rory Muller, who I think was an exceptional young footy player, Kirsch.
Yes.
We've even had talent in the last 5, 6 to 8 years. So we definitely know the club can attract it. It's just how do we make the offer more attractive?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Ever. I mean, if you actually went through all those names, like so even in the last 5 years or so, we've had some bloody good players come through. Hanging on to them's a different thing. But, yeah, we do work hard. Damo works his butt off, advertising, putting the club out there. We try to make it as fun as possible, and that's pretty much where we can sort of compete at it. Financially, you sort of you're strapped. I think there's a votes a point system coming in as a salary cap next year or the year after. So that could mix some things up as well. These big teams that have these big players out there, fitting them in their salary cap could be an issue. But I
think you guys have already spoken about a lot of it. It's like trying to find a female netball team or baseball or whoever plays on the winter side to get them involved, and then it's obviously lowering the Colts to keep the juniors in, and then it's obviously is there a merger that's attractive around the place, and then it's how do we become more attractive on a Saturday by getting more people involved? So you guys have got the recipe. It's just about, I suppose, starting to bake something.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just all got to come together now, So I mean, there's still a lot of work to do, but we've done a fair bit of work in that sort of process. Anyway, it's a long way to go before it all comes to fruition.
Yeah, was it in 3 seasons? The club will be in its 100th year of its existence in some form or another. So, for me personally, I think that's a bit of a target for us. I mean, 3 years is not unreasonable for us to become. To be having a club that has consistent attraction and culture and being competitive. Anyway, Evo, mate, look, let's go to breakdown of players. Let's go to you mentioned guys like the Edwards brothers, the Lloyd brothers as well, and so forth. And look, who's the player as a coach? I want you to tell me who was the best player you ever played alongside with in your playing days, and it could be from any club, and maybe talk a bit about them and give reasons as to why. So who was the best player you've ever played alongside with, and who's the best players in a coaching role you've ever seen or play or coached?
Good questions. Geez, that's hard to answer.
Yeah.
Well, look, I did make my debut at League at East Perth with David Wirrapunda. So he went on to play about 300 AFL games. I went on to play about 9. So it was a definite miscommunication. I got caught up in the social line, and he went on to have an absolute gun of a career. So, look, I played with some good players when I was at East Perth and watched a lot of good players too when I was playing in the Resies, watching the league. But I suppose I'll keep it with amateur footy. Look, guys I travelled with, so Matthew McMurray, he was an exceptional footy player. He was a Delhi.
He gave me a black eye.
Damo. He was an outstanding football player in his own right. Lloyd Haskett was another one for the country ranks.
Yes.
And look, I think from Stirling perspective, the best sort of player that I played with was, look, probably because he made me and Puss and Joel look so good, was Shane Green. Yeah. And I think accordingly he won 2 B&Fs, so he still gives me a lot of crap about that. So Shane, definitely, he made us all look good. And coach-wise, geez, look, on his day, and I think he was a double package. So you got this young fella, and then he got his dad afterwards, who was even more entertaining. So I'm going to say Corey Muller for pure talent and what he could do any given Saturday when he was switched on, and probably for pure football finesse and marking ability, I'll go with Damien Lloyd. I think I've always enjoyed watching him play, and I think he's got a lion heart, and he plays the game as it should be played. So that's probably a good nucleus there, I think, for us.
Not bad at all.
So you have the makings of us. If you had an AFL Nines team, mate, you got all those players in the prime, mate. You'd be winning everything. It'd be nothing social about that AFL Nines team. It'd be just who's going to get flogged.
I'll get Adam and Joel then, definitely, for doing a nines.
Absolutely. Watch out.
We often play a little game called Who's the Better Brother, Evo? And we oftentimes throw up names of brothers combinations at the club and say, let's play a little game of Who's the Better Brother with you. If you're keen for that?
Oh, I love it, mate. This is where I really get to let my emotions loose.
All right. So, Tils, if you can think of a couple of other brothers as well, feel free to join in. I'm going to start off with the ones that always stay up for me, as obviously it's let's see. There are 3 Edwards brothers. So you got Dane, you got Joel, and of course you got Adam. So
Joel. No, I'm just going to go in quick. I'm just going with my pure heart.
Okay.
No, definitely Joel. I just think, look, I respected him. He was hard at it. He never shirked any issues, and he played long periods. I heard it debated with Adam's pace, and Adam on his own right is an outstanding footy player, so don't get me wrong. Yeah. But you always lean the guys you played more footy with, and I did play footy with Adam, but I'll let Joel have the bragging rights on Adam on this one.
Okay. Well, the next one's going to be an interesting one, but you would have played with both these boys, and you have already talked this guy. What about the Lloyd brothers, Damo and Jeremy?
Oh.
Your best mate.
No, he's my
you might be coming into cricket by yourself.
No, look, Damo takes the footy raps there. Jeremy, in his own right, was an outstanding footy player too, from a marking goal. I just think maybe Damien's got a little bit more athleticism, so I'll lean towards Damo, regrettably, but Jeremy, I still think you're an outstanding footy player.
That'll work.
You got any Tils?
That's right. Oh, good.
You were doing this on purpose. Give me the green.
Yeah, that's right. I'm waiting for that one.
What about the much familiarity with the Heyman boys there, Evo?
Oh, God, good work. How did you bring those two up? So,
Dion and Terry.
Yeah. So they were just 2 different players. One was a beast and one was a gentleman, and they could both play.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm going to go. It was Dion and Jared, wasn't it? Dion and
Yep.
Dion and Jared.
Dion was the.
Dion was the Mormon copper.
Yes. Jared was the Neanderthal one.
That's right. Yeah.
Great guys, actually. I really like these 2 boys, and
brilliant.
On the punch, you've taken me by surprise there. Good fellas. I'll go with Dion. I reckon he was a bit like Damo. Had a lot of talent. He was hard at the footy. He had a great mark on him and a good kick. So I'll go with Dion. But great call, Damo.
Yeah. We actually called, when I was coaching thirds for a while, we actually called him up to help fill in. Because he'd stepped away from the game for about a couple of years, but he was still on the contact list, the player list, and they're in the coaches' rooms. They tapped me and they said, "You should really give him a call. Bloody hell, if you get him down, it's be a boon for us." So I gave him a couple of calls, and to my surprise, he came down. And I remember one time playing against Wanneroo over at Wanneroo, we had him at centre half forward, and if you remember Wanneroo grounds, it's a very slick clay surface on the top, very thin, so the boots can slip everywhere. But he ended up in a close game, in a wet game, he ended up kicking 6 from centre half forward for us. So he
could play, mate. He was a good player.
Yeah, 6 from centre. Not only full forward, but
centre forward too. I think we played him in a Tills would know this more than me.
B grade final, we would have, yeah. Oh, actually, even in
the A grade, I think it was the elimination.
It was too.
Did they come the year after that, or it might have been a year after that? It might have been 2 years later. They ended up coming and playing with us.
That's right. Yes. Yep. And
I remember it would have been with JC and I think Chris Wills. There was about 4 of them that came over.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on.
Yeah,
I think Jared had a day out that day, that final.
He did too.
Yeah.
He probably tripped Green's man.
I think he was actually. That was when Trevor went to centre half back. That's right. I remember that vividly. Yeah.
What about the Green brothers, Trevor and Shane? You mentioned Shane before. Trevor was no slouch, obviously.
Oh, none at all. Yeah, Trevor had the best elbows going around, and I got played for most of that. No, look, I've already said Shane was one of the best I played with, so I'll go with Shane for the Stirling games. But what Trev did for the club, and obviously got a lot of players down there at the time he was coaching. I've got a lot of admiration for what he did and how he got a group of guys all together. And as I said, I got a lot of friendships out of what he did. So I take my hat off to Trev and the role he played in that.
Definitely.
One last one. Were you familiar with Paul Franceschini's playing career much, Evo? Because I was going to maybe consider...
Yeah, he was my first captain. He was the captain at the 2001 side when Greenie first took over.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let's do a comparison between him and his brother. I mean, there's a bit of the bridge there, mate. It's going to be interesting to judge that one.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this one. So, look, I really liked the way Paul went about it. I reckon he was just hard at it, and he wasn't getting old. He was a bit older. I reckon he left a bit earlier than what he could. Fraggers, I've admired from a longer distance. Played a few games with Frags Junior, but admired a lot of his career. So, look, they're very similar too. I think they both read the play well. They're both, can play off their man. They're good runners off the half-back line. They love to create. Once again, I'm going to go with the older brother, Paul, but it's a real close one.
Yep.
Only because they've both been captains as well. So, yeah, look, I've probably done Fraggers Junior a little bit of injustice here, but I'll give Paul rights this evening.
Can you think of any off the top of your head, Tills? Any?
Wade Tass and Ad Tass.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
You want to play with them?
Mate, I did. I was there at the game when I still speak to Chris Belchuris, and he still mentions every time, and he has Wade's shoulder. It's been 19 years. I reckon his shoulder's recovered. So, Chris, it's one of Chris's highlights when he talks about it. And I'm like, we took out one of our best half-back flankers on a 2001 when we could have used him. So, and look, Wade played on me when I was at Wanneroo for 2 years. Yeah. Every time I'd get Wade Tassif would come to me, and most times I'd had a big night because it was Sunday footy, which I didn't really like.
No.
And I'd have Wade Tassif running around on me that, I've had girlfriends that gave me more space than Wade. So, he was hard at it, Wade. So, and Adam, Adam I played against, but he left Stirling when I got down there. So I'm going to give that one to Wade because he obviously towed me up a couple of times too at Wanneroo and made me look a bit silly. So I'll give that one to Wade.
He'll take that, I reckon.
Well, let's segue on our way towards the big three questions, Evo, mate. Let's consider the big three. You know what the big three are, of course. Let's start with the old grand final after the siren. Kick from 40 out, dead in front. The kick will win the flag. Who would you put the ball? Whose hands would you rather have the ball in?
Well, it's got to go straight to Matty Cullen, mate. So I don't think a guy that kicks about 118 or 8 in one season, and I think he only kicked about 25 points or something like that.
Yeah.
He's got my money, and he could kick him from 55. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
What
beautiful kick.
Tills, do you remember what season that was in?
I made the mistake of getting caught in the showers with him one day as well, mate. So I never did that again.
No. It always seems to be the 1-2 punch when everyone mentions Matty Cullen. It's how great a full 40 is and how full 40 was in the shower. So.
Yeah, it comes in the next breath. It sort of just follows.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of the very few blokes I've ever heard. He paid a free kick against for tripping himself on the field. So yeah, he was. Actually, I have one memory of I forgot what the game it was. It was a finals game, and I remember that he was laying on the ground, fully dressed, and the team physios and so forth, predominantly female, some of them, well, in those years, but and he was leaning on his back, and sort of the shorts were, footy shorts. He's sort of stretching his glute or wherever it was, bringing his sort of knee up to his chin, sort of thing, and he's he cut his lunch, mate. His sack popped out of one side and his belly popped out the other end. and true to Matty, he just wasn't perturbed by anything. I didn't I'll just tuck that in or anything. Just to stay there. And he whistled to the strap. One of the physios just happened to say, "Can you pass me the scissors?" And of course, it's no mistake. And she just went, "Oh."
Well, mate, what I remember of Matty, I don't know if I'd call them footy shorts. I thought he played in Speedos. They were that tight.
They were too. Yes,
He didn't mind the old Warwick Cappers.
No, that's right. Classic.
What about Evo? I mean, your name has popped up in consideration. You've often taken the honours for this, as far as being in this scenario, this hypothetical of if you've yourself against the majority of the opposition, and it's a heated exchange, and you find yourself in a bit of trouble. Who would you like to have? Who would you prefer to have alongside you from your team to help you out?
Yeah, look, there's only two, so I'll go with Joel Edwards for a cheeky little hit to the face to someone. I'll go with Adam Fallows for the brute strength, and I think those two boys have been named before as well. So I don't think I'm telling you anything new out there in Radio Land.
It's pretty popular. They are.
And of course, the last one, mate, is you had 46 playing days are done. Would you say?
Yeah, no, all over, mate. Thank you.
Did you know when you were going to finish playing, or that was it? Or wasn't an injury that cut it short? Said, you're being told that you can't play, it's not going to help you, or was it just a decision you just faded out by your own choice?
No, look, it was really Del Wallen. Well, remember I played for in 2007. Me and you were debating that.
Yeah.
That was my last permanent year. Then I sort of came back to Stirling to do a bit of coaching, played a few reserves games, and then. Yeah, mate, after that it was sort of all shot. The body was done and packed and all done. So, yeah, what was that? Probably pretty much 19 seasons. So I was pretty comfortable with my body getting me that far, to be honest.
Yeah, fair effort.
And all I got was one broken nose. The only bone I ever broke. So
wow.
That's not too bad either.
That is bloody
fair
good.
effort.
Yeah.
I know. How many times should my nose have been broken?
Many times, mate. And that's not just on the field either.
On the golf
some
course.
of your best work off the field.
If you mention this leads us to our last question, Evo. I mean, if you were going to be chaired off, if you knew you had your time and you knew this was going to be your last game, you're retiring, done, and you had to be chaired off, two people underneath you lifting up, who would you have?
Mate, I'm probably going to go with Trevor Green and Jeremy Lloyd, since they're the worst football players in their family. So the other boys are sort of wanting autographs. Those two blokes can chair me off because no one's really interested in getting their autograph. And I've mentioned it as well, so they can't complain because they're cheering me off.
That's right, exactly.
Wouldn't that take if they're signing autographs, would that distract from your moment?
Yeah, no, good point. Make sure they're 10 metres behind until I've actually gone off the ground.
Shepherd him at the back. Well, Evo, our hour is just about up, mate. So it's been a pleasure to absolutely have you on board for this podcast. It's been thoroughly entertaining. It's been a great discussion of insights and reflections on your part. Very good to speak to you. Is there anything else you want to speak about? I mean, we've got a bit of time left. Anything in particular you want to discuss or any questions?
Look, mate, just once again, just want to reiterate to the playing group to... I'm not sure, Tills. Is there, how many games they got left? Is it 4 or 3 now?
We got 3.
3 left? Yeah. Yep.
3 left. So I suppose, look, as we mentioned earlier, I think some of your greatest friendships, and I even listened to some of the other podcasts, and a lot of the guys mentioned the camaraderie and friends for life and treasured memories and all that type of stuff that the Stirling Footy Club's created. And look, I think people in general have to look back on that and understand that's created by a club and culture and all the rest of it over many, many years. So, look, one thing, as I've always said, is, we owe the club a lot more than the club owes us. So I really think, what you guys are doing is fantastic. Saturday, you saw the passion there is for the club. So I just hope everyone holds strong. Look, as I said, I'm on the Perth Cricket Association, but that's not forever. And I really want to get back to the Stirling Footy Club to lend a hand in any way, shape or form to help guide it into its next journey. And I know there's definitely one there. And with people like you two guys on this podcast, Wade Tassif, Dave, the Mafia boys that do the dinners, to everyone that contributes around the club, to Kinger and Packy and those guys. Look, there is life. We've all got to help, and it's not just up to you guys. And I suppose everyone needs to understand that those memories can be lost forever if we don't make a difference over the next, 2, 3 to 6 months. So, look, I'm right behind what you guys are doing, and that's why I jumped on this podcast to sort of, as I said, get on here and send a message. And then obviously next year, if there's a role for me to play, I'm more than happy to jump on board. So appreciate your time, guys. Amazing job. Everyone need more than 21 likes, so make sure you like it. I'm not losing to Corpius. No. I haven't stayed up in Adelaide till 11:30 at night to get 2 likes like Praddy did and Molly got 3. So don't disappoint me. Make sure you get up and give me some likes. And thanks, guys. A great club. You guys are great in it, and I really appreciate your time, boys.
Thanks, Eves. It's been a pleasure having you on tonight, mate.
Here, Evo, mate. It's been absolutely pure gold, podcast gold for us this evening, mate. It's I've got sore face muscles from smiling and laughing. That's an indication how good it's been. So, Tils, before we go, mate, have you got any parting words to say before we wrap this up?
No, mate, you can't follow him, mate. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up here then. Mick, Evo, mate, again, I'll just say again, it's absolutely very good for you to be on this podcast, mate. I knew it was going to be fantastic when you said yes, and your enthusiasm. I know it's evident whenever we speak to you about anything football, but to have this on radio, on the broad podcast, mate, it's fantastic, mate. So I do to thank all our guests to be on this, especially yourself right now. To our listeners, guys, we've got 3 more games left, 3 more rounds. It starts this weekend with Jubilee against Bassadine. We have 1 more home game the week following. It's going to be a big game. We've got the Ladies' Day and the 100 Club draw, so that'll also be, you can anticipate that's going to be a big crowd draw as well, like the past players. Don't leave yourselves guessing and wondering what would it be like to come down and watch the game. Answer that question yourself by turning up and watching a game or two. If you're in the area of watching an away game, and you have the time, nothing better than going down and watching the game there. It's always good. The club's always there. It's always has been there. You just got to turn up and be a part of it. Your presence, you are important. You're needed. You need to be there. And it's certainly appreciated when we do turn up. Evo, once again, thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.
Tils, once again, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Mick.
No worries, Tils. Thank you. Thanks, viewers.
No worries, and good luck to the reserves and to the league for Stirling this weekend, boys. Go get them. We're out.